Welcome. My name is Luigi Ferrara. I'm the Dean for the Center for Arts, Design and Information Technology here at George Brown College, and I'm the Chair and CEO of the Brookfield Sustainability Institute. And I'm thrilled that you've joined us, both here in person and for the many people who are online from around the world, as we embark on our Digifest dialogues and our first BSI summit. We began last night with wonderful presentations from across Canada and around the world. And this morning we're going to be continuing our thought leadership and discussion and debate, helping the BSI reach its goals. But to start the event, I want to invite Chef David Wolfman to do the land acknowledgement. Chef Wolfman is an alumnus of GBC, but he's also the director of our Indigenous initiatives, and he's a faculty member at GBC. He's won many awards and is a leading chef in the country with a specialty in game cuisine, but he also had his own TV show, and he's just really a remarkable person, and I'm so proud to have you come up and do the land acknowledgement.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for inviting me today. I want to talk a bit about, just before I do our territorial slash land acknowledgement, I want to talk about sustainability. And this word of sustainability to me is something that's near and dear. I was at a conference right near my home of Hawk Club First Nation in British Columbia, and they asked me to speak. And one of the things I wanted to speak about was sustainability. And so I asked all of the elders from our community, can you tell me how to say sustainability in our language? Which I cannot believe what it caused between all of the elders. Nobody agreed. But they did come up with a term, and it was called our way of life. Now, let me give you a little bit of background about where I'm from. I'm from Hawk Club First Nation, which is in the mountains of British Columbia. Now, when we look at sustainability, we look at it differently. So when we're considered the salmon people. So when we go and gather our salmon, we look for indicators to tell us. We call them ecological indicators. So when we see this small little buttercup, which is an orangish, pinkish color, come out of the ground, everybody in our community knows. So we're all saying, okay, it's time to go down. We have about a week, and the salmon will be running because it's warm enough for that buttercup to come out. It's warm enough for the salmon. So we would go and gather our salmon, and part of gathering our salmon, we would actually take the innards out, take the head off. We'd have a ceremony to bring some of the salmon back. But because it's a large salmon run, we would gather a lot of salmon. And part of gathering that salmon, we would bury it to later dry it. Now, there is another salmon run that happens, and this is a more fascinating part of this story to me, because when I was back home, they said, oh, there's the buttercup. When I was back home, they said, the salmon run down this river. And I'm looking at everybody going, there's not a river there. And they said, well, that's because it's August. So the river's not running anymore. And I thought, a river dries up every year? And they said, yeah, when the snow melts on the mountaintop, it comes down the river. And this is when the Chinook salmon comes up. And it's so, when the Chinook salmon comes up, it's also a reddish color. You guys have probably seen Chinook in the market. Very red, very firm, because it's a very strong salmon. And what we do is, part of our belief is that we don't take it. We allow a bunch of, I was going to say herds of salmon. My wife got mad at me when I said that last time. We allow a lot of salmon to go upstream because there's other communities farther up the mountain. So again, it's this bit of sustainability. Now, a little bit more about sustainability is that when we want to go back to dry the salmon, we have to dry it in on the side of the river here, the Fraser River, and it has to be warm enough out. If we just hang our salmon, it will not dry. So it has to be warm out. How do we know when it's warm out? Well, we've been doing this for thousands of years. We didn't have our iPhones to tell us. So we would listen for a grasshopper. And when this grasshopper rubbed its wings together, it made a clicking sound, which is the same clicking sound you make to cut along the back of the salmon. So it's that same click. So again, it's an ecological indicator. So what does this talk about sustainability? Well, it talks about that we respect everything from the fish, the grasshoppers. The The other thing is when we take all the innards and the heads out, we also bring those to the forest and share it with the bears. Now, I remember asking one of my uncles, why do we do that? And he said, well, he didn't tell me the traditional story. He told me a different story. And he said, because if you don't feed the bears, they're going to eat your salmon that you buried and then eat you. But the traditional story is that we're part of all of this. We are not the dominating part. So when we look at sustainability for the environment, this is one point that I wanted to share. So as a member of the Hawklip First Nation, I wanted to share that with you, and I also want to share our territorial/land acknowledgement. When I first gave a land acknowledgement in the West Coast, the elders said to me, what, do you don't like the air? You don't like the water? So it was just the land. George Brown College is on the traditional territory of the land, air, and water of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, the Huron-Wendat, and the Mississauga of the Credit, and many other groups of Indigenous people who have traveled through here and met each other and shared stories and shared food, and many fantastic people that live here today. So when we look at this, our area was once abundant with deer, beavers, various birds, wildlife, moose even that came down this far. And our waters also had salmon and many lake sturgeon and other fresh waters. So today, Toronto is home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit and Métis people, and other, again, fantastic people. So we're honored to endure the presence and deep cultural heritage of Indigenous people and recognize their stewardship and our stewardship for this area and its waterways throughout history. And thank you so much for this opportunity to share my story on sustainability. Thank you.
Shelf Wolfman, thank you. And I think that really does set the tone and help us really understand deeply what sustainability can mean and what it means for all of us to in essence, be in equality with each other and to support each other. And today is going to be a day where we're very interactive and we're working together. But to start it all, I'd like to invite Michael Ferrara. He's our Senior Vice President, Institutional Planning and Chief Financial Officer for George Brown College. He spent his career in service for the non-for-profit sector, having worked with social service, religious, and arts organizations. Prior to joining George Brown College, he spent a decade with the United Way of Greater Toronto, and he also held similar leadership positions in the Anglican Church of Canada, the YMCA of Greater Toronto, and the National Ballet of Canada. Prior to these roles, Michael was a manager at E&Y and an independent consultant. In his private work, he supports arts and heritage organizations. He's on many boards, and he certainly is someone who really supports the George Brown community in an amazing way. And in fact, he's attended all of the year-end events, and in our area, that's about 20. And if you times that by 7, you know how committed he is. So to greet us and start us off with a welcome, Michael Ferrara.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you, both in person and virtually, to Digifest Dialogues BSI Summit. This is a milestone event for the Brookfield Sustainability Institute. This summit builds upon the legacy of the annual Digifest Design and Technology Festival, organized by Luigi for many years, which looks at the future of our society. This is the first gathering of the BSI's League of Innovators and Scholars with the option to connect in person as well as online. Joining us at this event are other global thought leaders, both academics and practitioners, as well as government and industry partners. The purpose of the Digifest Dialogues BSI Summit is to identify and analyze forward-thinking challenges and solutions surrounding smart sustainability, aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Who better than George Brown College and the BSI to tackle this challenge? The BSI at George Brown College is a global solution studio one of Ontario's only college-based centers of excellence focusing on creating applied solutions to climate change for industry and government. The studio combines the skills of our faculty, students, and our global League of Innovators to tackle diverse challenges. It aims to offer tangible solutions for building sustainable communities that are environmentally, socially, culturally, and my favorite, financially viable. The BSI supports knowledge sharing of smart sustainability strategies and developing talents for the future by training students to tackle real-world challenges in the fight against climate change. The Institute highlights the college's aim to be a sustainable leader and a force for positive environmental change locally and globally. BSI builds on GBC's commitment to providing graduates with the necessary skills to innovate, adapt, and thrive in a rapidly changing world. I look forward to this exciting collaboration to come out of today and thinking through this challenge, generating the thought leadership that will drive the BSI's work over the next 5 years. Together, we can accelerate the rate of innovation that will be required to truly transform our society and build a more sustainable future. And now, let me turn the mic back to Luigi Ferrara, George Brown College's Dean of the Center for Arts, Design, and Information Technology, and Chair and CEO of the Brookfield Sustainability Institute. Thank you and good morning.
Thanks, Michael. And so, as I mentioned, today is a very a special day, and it's going to be special because it's really built on the interactions of everyone who's present. So we have people from diverse walks of life. We have students, we have faculty, we have professionals, we have thought leaders, and we're going to be working together. And the purpose of why we're coming together is really to chart the research agenda for the Brookfield Sustainability Institute. And to do sustainability, you have to do it together. You have to work together, and you have to work systemically, and you have to collaborate in a constructive way. And so as we're building the Brookfield Sustainability Institute, we want to do just that. And we want people to participate, and we want people to share their ideas, and we want people to work together to achieve meaningful change that can really help us prosper in the long term. Last night was an incredible start. We had some wonderful presentations from different groups. We were lucky to have the people from Fire Integra, Johnson Aluk, Lauren Tallcree, who was virtual, and Sugu Turasmi. And for the new people, maybe Johnson and Sugu, could you raise your hand so they get to see you, just so that people here know who you are? They were here, and they presented their amazing project, which is local stewardship of the wood buffalo and the land, so that fires are stopped before they actually start. And then we had from Jamaica virtually, Nicola Shirley, Phillips from the Source Farm, and then we had from Toronto's, we had Cheryl Case from Toronto CP Planning. And the Source Farm is this unique intentional community where they're preserving indigenous agriculture, and they're using permaculture and communal living to create a sustainable future in St. Thomas in Jamaica. And Cheryl has been working with communities for justice in planning and affordable housing rights. So these projects were there to help us understand, that this is the sustainability challenge that we're confronted with is complex, it's intersectional, it involves all sorts of people and all life on Earth, and therefore we need to, come up with solutions that recognize all of these, participants. And in a way, we have to balance what are global objectives with the impacts that they have on local communities, and see if we can make a positive local interworking relationship. And I think it set us up for a wonderful discussion. This morning, we're going to be trying, and so I'm trying to see my slides here, we're going to be identifying and analyzing, Jacob, you jumped on me, so if you can go back. What we're going to be doing is actually trying to think through what are the projects of work that we can do together to advance our agenda. And what do I mean by that? We have sustainable development goals that the United Nations has agreed to. People are working on trying to realize these goals, but what they're really missing is a set of sustainable design formats that we can use around the world to advance the agenda and to achieve more progress. And what we're designing today together is what those formats might be, the possibility of what formats what we think of in these different areas of caring, which is our health and wellness, sharing, which is the way we learn and work, and living with our houses and our community. So we're going to be looking at those specific areas and trying to come up with the important projects that need to be solved and need to be developed. And facilitating us through that is we have 3 guest facilitators. Eric Meerkamper, I'd ask him to stand, and Christina Werner, who's with Waterfront Toronto, and Jane Cook-Lauder, who's with Bateleur, and they're going to be helping us have the discussion and the dialogue and work together towards that goal. Also with us, both online and in person, are members of our League of Innovators who've graciously agreed to be part of the BSI. And I'm going to ask the people who are in the League of Innovators to stand up so people can see you in the room, so that you get to know some of the League of Innovator members that are here. They're here giving us advice. There are many people online from all over the world who are participating as well. And I want to thank today, especially Karen Carter, for the panel that she organized last night. She is part of a team that has organized this event. And Jacob Kessler, who you see in that corner, who's busy trying to make everything work, and who's contributed. So they're around if you have a question or you need something. Both Karen and Jacob can help you on anything that you absolutely need. And so what we'll be doing, we'll be starting the morning with the presentations, and then we'll be breaking out into 3 groups. And then each of the facilitators is going to take you through a process where you'll be generating ideas and pulling the ideas together. It'll start, the breakouts will start around 10:30, and you'll be sort of getting settled in and discussing the issues until 11:30. And then you'll start by the 3 themes within each group, and you'll work roughly for an hour on each of those themes, and then you'll look at the cross connections between them, and then we'll come back together at the end of the day to look at the connections between the work that's been created. We have a wonderful set of BSI students and BSI visiting scholars that are online from the Politecnico of Milan, who will be here helping you. And I want you to put up the hands of the BSI students so people know who they are. And they're going to be in your groups. They're going to be recording. They're going to be participating. They're going to be helping capture all the knowledge that you're generating as well. So right now, to help you think about the projects, I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the projects that BSI is already undertaken and what we're doing. So Jacob, so like one of the results of years of work at our Institute Without Boundaries was the birth of the Limberlost Project, which you see across the street and which is kindly coming to fruition. But it's also going to be the home of the BSI once it opens. Next slide. And so, what we're doing at the BSI is we're using research and design to create social product and service innovation for the age of sustainability, using what we call smart sustainability, which is traditional wisdom and knowledge and nature-based solutions, digital transformation, and targeted high technology to create solutions that are affordable and that can spread in the marketplace. Next slide. And we're focused on a number of areas. We're focused on green energy solutions, circular economies, building systems, mobility solutions, and food security. Next slide. And we have 3 pillars to the Institute. We have an observatory where we're building databases, we're doing research, we're publishing papers, we're convening events like this events to push thought leadership and to capture solutions and to identify what's missing. Then we're doing training and curriculum. We have our IDSP program, which is running now, but we're having 5 new programs that are starting in a year, which will expand the range of sustainable offerings, and we're creating micro-credentials so that professionals can come and learn about how to do this transformative work. And then we have a global solution studio that's working on projects. And I'd like to describe some of the projects that the studio works on, and the innovative way it works is that students, faculty, and experts from around the world are working on the projects. It's all built on the 20 years that we had of an Institute Without Boundaries here at George Brown, which sort of paved the way for this way of working, where we developed the Charrette methodology that we use, and which over the years has seen us gain a lot of knowledge. And so we're building on that knowledge and making it more active into the marketplace. And we're using what are iterative, agile, collaborative design processes to help create these solutions and to accelerate industry's capacity to change, government's capacity to change, nonprofits' capacity to change, and foundations' capacity to change. Next slide. And we're doing that with projects in the classroom. And so our first cohort did a project on urban agriculture, and I'd like to call on Derek Schmucker, who is going to describe the work that they did in this first year of their work at the BSI. Derek.
Thanks, Luigi. Thanks. Yeah, so I'm Derek Schmucker, and I'm representing the first cohort for BSI's multidisciplinary internship was part of it, but the postgraduate program, the design strategy. And we are City Harvest. This is what we've been working on the whole year. We've done many presentations. A lot of them have been up to 40 minutes, sometimes an hour, so I'm gonna try to distill it into 5 minutes. If you do have any questions and have more interest, feel free to come up to any of us and speak to us after. So yeah, I'm just gonna talk a little bit about the process and then go into what we came up with in our designs. So we spent a large portion of this year not only designing for these applied solutions, but also researching. We wanted to do our research to make sure that everything that we were designing for was truly sustainable, and we were hitting all the right notes and making sure that everything was being designed for. So a lot of this process was things like charrettes. We had multiple charrettes, some of them global. People from Italy came, and we worked together to put together different designs, and we got lots of different people from different disciplines as well. And then once we did all these charrettes, we wrote research papers. We went out into the field and looked at the history within Toronto of food security and urban agriculture. We started designing, and we spent many months designing, redesigning, and going through the process of trying to figure out how we can improve food security in Toronto, as food security is a big issue, especially in today's world. And a lot of our research findings were around food waste. We waste a lot of food. That is something that not only impacts food security, that could go to people who are hungry, but also it increases greenhouse gases, which contributes to global warming. And then we also discovered that the climate emergency is rapidly accelerating, and there is very real possibility that it will impact our food chains as we now know it, the global food chain. So how can we return agriculture back into the cities to improve food sovereignty? That was something that we wanted to solve for. We also noticed in our research, our primary research, that there is a lack of experience around urban agriculture in Toronto, but there is interest. So this is something that is not really tapped into, and we wanted to tap into that. So I already spoke a little bit about our problems that we identified, and so what we came up for, we wanted to solve for three main different levels. We wanted to solve for an individual level, we wanted to design for a community level, and we wanted to design for a city level. So three different levels we wanted to have an intervention. And so we came up with a digital platform, harvest hubs, which will be on the street level producing food, and then residential harvest kits. And then ideally there'd be a composting facility that would bring it all together. So the first part would be this Food Connect, which is a digital platform which would have three main pillars. It would revolve around a digital marketplace where people would be able to buy and sell food, so an intervention on the food distribution level. And then it would also offer knowledge distribution, so people would be able to host workshops. And there'd be a community level, so like a social media for everything food related. It's all spread out right now. We want to center it, and then we also want to take all of the new data that we're receiving around urban agriculture and centralize that as well to provide new insights around urban agriculture. Some of them that may not be present at the moment. So new data, and then our harvest kits. These would be smart systems which not only produce food and would be able to provide people with fresh, hyper-local food in their homes. It would also have a food dehydrating option, which would be in the bottom there, which would reduce food waste on a household level. So a lot of food waste that we put in the green bin actually ends up in landfill regardless. So we want to eliminate the possibility of that. And then we have the neighborhood harvest hubs, which would be on street level, utilizing facades. So this would be producing food on neighborhood levels. People would be able to access this, and it would not only make the neighborhoods a lot greener, but it would also provide more food security for these neighborhoods. So all in all, we have lots of things that we want to impact. It's a big system. It all interacts in different ways. And our main impacts that we want to, we designed for were to shorten the food supply chain. We wanted to increase fresh, affordable food for residents, and we designed specifically for here in Toronto. But it could be applied, maybe with some tweaks, to other cities, other urban centers, and we also wanted to utilize underutilized areas in urban centers. So thank you. Thanks, Luigi.
Thank you. So that gives you a sense of the type of projects that we're working on and we're imagining. These type of projects would be now heading into prototyping, say the personal use one, or working with the St. Lawrence community to look at, can we do a pilot of the communal growing. So this is the kind of project. And now we're going to hear from the class that started in January. They're at the midpoint of their project. And so I invite Yulia up to describe the work that they're doing.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Yulia. I'm representing a second cohort of IDSP program. For this year, we're mainly focusing on developing a mobile health and well-being system to be delivered to the GBC students. Oops, sorry. Yeah, so this is a part of our team. It's just 3 of us working on this project. And in alignment with United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, we deeply looked into the third goal and particularly into the target 3.4 that focuses on mental health and well-being. of the nation, and we're trying to deploy it into the GBC system. So our brief and our main problem statement that we came up after doing a very deep research of what the mental health looks like in the modern day, what it looks like in GBC, with GBC students, how they feel, what kind of services are they offered, and what kind of issues are they facing. So it sounds, how might we enhance the accessibility of health and well-being services for the George Brown College community? Because GBC has a lot of services to offer and to give to students, but a lot of them finding themselves in a point where they cannot access them because of various issues such as website, or they're not available in many formats. They're struggling of navigation. So we came up with a holistic solution that will enhance this access. We have preliminarily defined our vision and mission. So the vision is to become one of the most helpful services for GBC students. A spot a student can go is like a one thing communication with GBC. And the mission is to help students deal with their mental health and deal with their health, because everything comes up to prevent physical issues. You have to focusing on your health, on your mental health, on your living situation, on your nutrition, and this is one of our values. Also, we wanted to be fostering a community within the GBC students, because a lot of them are lacking communication with each other. There's not enough events. They don't have a support systems here in Toronto, especially for those people who are moving abroad or who are moving from different provinces. But we also want to demystify access to the healthcare, because a lot of students, they don't know how the healthcare works. They don't know how to get their OHIP number, their insurance number, how to go into the walk-in clinic, how to get a family doctor. So we want to focus on demystifying this access by providing resources, consultations, and just having all of the students' information within the one system. And here's the holistic approach. The main thing, the first touch point of a student will be the AI navigator. He's your personal assistant to everything you need to know about your student life within GBC. And then 2 supportive services will be presented as a physical space. It's a multi-purpose space for workshops and private counseling, where students can come, communicate with each other, deal with their stress, with their anxiety, and also a digital platform and physical space. They will be mirroring each other, but digital platform will be more focusing on education and communication between students within the online space. So for the AI navigator, we came up with a buddy system that will promote a community of health and well-being care. This is Georgie. He's going to be a friend. You can ask him anything you need to know about how to be a student, where to find things. He will navigate you to the resources you need to find. You can share how you feel with him, and he can give the advice. It's that one person who is your friend. And you can do this from the comfort of your own bed, basically. And then we have a preliminary design strategy of how the physical space will be looking like. The idea for the space to be very modular, very flexible, expandable, and deployable anywhere. So this architectural space will be 2 cubes that will expand and fold into each other like a Russian doll, and still in the very early stages of development, but we're thinking about having 2 modules that will be outside and inside, and the inside modules will be placed right directly here as the pilot site outside of this room. And the exterior, we're looking into the space outside of Daniel's building around those trees and umbrellas. So the whole project has a lot of potential, and we're right now at the middle point. And here's like our future plans. We're looking to work more into the framework of this system, to design a service blueprint, all backstage and front stage, work on a digital product, and eventually this system to be deployed in any kind of institution. So the GBC is for now our pilot site, but technically it can be in any kind of educational institutions, in any kind of office. It could be deployed outside in the rural areas to promote the health and well-being for all. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Julia. And you can see that we're going to be, we're at the midpoint, and it's going to be taken to the level of development that the first cohort took, the urban agriculture project, and then ideally after that we'll prototype something and work with hopefully GBC to implement some of these ideas potentially. So just to give you a sense of how this all then plays in. So what you're thinking about today are these type of projects. You know, these are the projects that our student cohorts are going to be confronting over the next 5 to 10 years. And so we're trying to get a list of them early so that we can start pulling together the partnerships and the support and the participation of people to help realize them, right? So that's what we're working on. But ultimately, this work moves into what we call the Global Solutions Studio, where we try to actually bring it into reality and get solutions that are adopted in the marketplace. Next slide. So, you know, what we do in that studio is we do research and strategy, we do innovation, and we do product development and service development. And we do this with a very unique process, which we call charretting, and which really, it's really the key to it is you have people from different walks of life working collaboratively in a focused time period, in a short time period, to try to solve the problems, visualize them, and bring solutions forward. Next. We did a charrette. That's how we got the design brief for the Limberlost Place, which ended up through a process similar to this, becoming a real project at George Brown, and which is coming to fruition, and as it comes to fruition, is changing how buildings are being built around the world. And that's the whole process that we're trying to emulate here. From that front, we're developing things like this mass timber database. We now have 1,000 examples of these type of buildings from around the world, and we've built this database that anyone can access and learn and get information about those buildings. But we're also working with clients. In this case, we worked with a client who has a technology for an aluminum battery. Imagine putting an aluminum disc inside your furnace and then getting power, you know, for a week. And then you throw in, it's like throwing in a CD and you keep getting power. So we've been working with them, helping them turn this into a viable product for a viable marketplace. So helping them accelerate what they're doing. And we were able to help them get another $4 million in funding by getting them on the right track with the right product. And now this technology, in the next 2 or 3 years, you're going to start seeing it coming to life. Next slide. We are also working with startups. That was a scale up. This startup is actually looking at all our tractor trailers that currently have a diesel generator that keeps the food warm or cold inside the trailer as it's going to Loblaws from whichever farm it came from. So we're working with this company, Hydrocool, that is developing a hydrogen version that replaces the diesel generator on the truck. And so we designed the generator there. It's actually been built. It's at Ontario Tech University where they're testing it in the wind tunnel. And you can see it there and how it would be on a truck. And we developed their branding and you can see how it works. It's actually, when it's working, the green light is on to let you know it's doing things in a green way as opposed to a dirty way like a diesel generator. Next slide. We're also looking at things like circular fashion. So we had our students from the graduating cohort, last cohort of the Institute Without Boundaries, help work with us at the BSI to create the principles for sustainable fashion. Then we got our fashion students designing the fashion. Here you see Kai Paolo's incredible For Tomorrow hoodie. And then we launched it at George Brown College, and we're working with a partner. So here are the principles of zero waste design in fashion for circular design. And we're working with a company on a circular platform that identifies, tags the fashion, and actually when you return it for recycling gives you a financial incentive. So we're working on these types of innovative projects and bringing them to reality. We had a Kickstarter and we just started the work in that regard. We're also doing studies. This is a project we did with No Fixed Address on the future of work, looking at how work is changing in the future and how we're going to have to adjust how we learn and how we work, a theme that came out and is in part of today's work. But we're also working on projects. This weekend we worked on micro and nano nuclear reactors to try to see how to design them, to fit them into remote northern communities, or to fit them into emergency situations, or to see how they might fit into our suburbs in the future. And we're working on projects in the countryside, creating climate positive communities, in the suburbs, trying to create new urban developments that are climate positive, and working with Habitat for Humanity on a whole new development model. They built one house at a time, and we're trying to help them figure out how to build a sustainable developments that infill in cities. So these are the kind of projects that we're working on, and I'm showing you these to help you get a sense of what you should be thinking about today, because what we're looking for you is advice on what projects to work on. What should we be building? What should we be prototyping? What should we be creating to help construct a better world? Okay, so I think we're now ready to go to the rooms. I think you're going to find that in each room you'll have your recorders, your visualize, your research, or you'll have your guest facilitator, you'll have your BSI rep, you have representatives from the League of Innovators and Scholars and participants there, and there'll be people in person and people online collaborating in the 3 different rooms. Next slide. And as we've mentioned before, we have the 3 groups: the ways of sharing, the ways of living, and the ways of caring. You see the SDGs that they're related to, and what we're looking to do is develop these sustainable design formats for the future. Next slide. And to do that, we like to use something that we've developed back at the Institute Without Boundaries, which is our ecology of innovation, thinking about things from the social, design, technical, business, and political perspective. Because if you think about all of this, you're more likely to create an innovation that's able to stick and to be more effective in the marketplace. So wanting you to keep all of those things in mind as you're thinking of ideas, because those are all the dimensions around that idea. And so what is a format? A format, if you think about it, if you think of a reality television show, it has a specific type of content. It has a design and structure and form around that content. It has a systematic process of creation of the content, and it is something that you can easily replicate with a predictable set of effects that comes out of it, right? With impacts and outcomes coming out of it. So when I'm asking people to think of formats, we're really trying to think of the ways we would live differently. And I want to take it back to what was the definition you used, David, for sustainability that the community came up with?
Way of life.
Way of life, right? So really we're trying to think of new ways of life that we can imagine and prototype and build. So that's what we're trying to do.